There is a tree that ancient physicians called the pharmacy of the gods, a tree that Egyptian queens crushed into their skin, that Greek doctors prescribed for ailments we still struggle to cure, that Roman traders carried across the Mediterranean like liquid gold. For over 2,000 years, it was treated as one of the most valuable medicinal plants on Earth. And yet, if you walked outside right now and asked the first 10 people you saw to name it, almost none of them could. Its name is Moringa oleifera. In the next few minutes, you will learn why this single tree has been called the tree of life, what modern science has finally confirmed about its powers, and the uncomfortable economic reason it was quietly buried in the West. To understand why this tree matters, you have to start at the foothills of the Himalayas in northwestern India, where Moringa oleifera first took root thousands of years ago. The ancient Ayurvedic physicians who wrote the Karaka Samhita and the Sushruta Samhita, two of the oldest medical texts on the planet, listed this single plant as a treatment for over 300 different diseases. 300. That is not a casual mention in a footnote. That is a tree treated as the foundation of an entire healing tradition. Egyptian royalty used the oil pressed from its seeds to shield their skin from the desert sun. Greek physicians wrote it into their prescriptions for digestive disorders. Roman traders moved it along the spice routes alongside cinnamon and pepper. And in Senegal, Ethiopia, and Kenya, traditional healers used every single part of the tree, from leaves to roots, generation after generation, long before any European had even heard the word. So how could something so universally revered simply vanish from the Western conversation? Hold that question, because the answer is more uncomfortable than you think, and we will get to it. First, let's talk about why this tree earned its reputation in the first place, because once you see the numbers, everything else starts to make sense. If you take a single gram of dried moringa leaf and analyze it in a laboratory, you find something extraordinary. Roughly 25% of that leaf is pure protein. And that protein contains all 9 essential amino acids, the building blocks your body cannot manufacture on its own. For a plant, this is almost unheard of. Most vegetables are missing at least one. Moringa is missing none. Now layer on the vitamin content. Gram for gram, moringa leaves contain roughly 7 times the vitamin C of an orange, 4 times the vitamin A of a carrot in the form of beta-carotene, 4 times the calcium of a glass of milk, 3 times the potassium of a banana, and 3 times the iron of spinach. One tree, one leaf, over 100 bioactive compounds isolated from a single plant species. And those compounds are not just nutritional curiosities, they are pharmacologically active. Researchers have isolated flavonoids from moringa leaves that act as powerful antioxidants throughout your body. They have identified isothiocyanates, including a molecule called MIC1, with documented anti-inflammatory effects. They have found glucosinolates that convert into protective compounds during digestion, phenolic acids that neutralize cellular damage, and entirely novel molecules called niacinamide A and niacinamide B that exist nowhere else in the natural world. To replicate this chemistry in a laboratory, you would need dozens of factories. Nature does it inside the leaf of a tree that grows in your backyard if you live in the right climate. But it's one thing to list compounds. It's another thing to ask what those compounds actually do inside a living human body. So let's look at what the peer-reviewed research has documented. From a single plant, scientists have observed antidiabetic activity, lowering blood sugar in diabetic patients, antihypertensive activity, easing elevated blood pressure, anti-inflammatory activity throughout the body, antioxidant activity, neutralizing the free radicals that age your cells, antibacterial and antifungal activity against multiple pathogens, anti-cancer and anti-tumor effects observed in laboratory settings, hepatoprotective effects that shield the liver from toxins, cardioprotective effects supporting the heart muscle, neuroprotective effects studied against Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and stroke damage, wound healing and anti-ulcer effects on damaged tissue. 10 distinct pharmacological activities from one tree. That is the kind of resume that, if moringa were a synthetic drug, would have made someone a billionaire. And the clinical trials are starting to catch up. A 2025 randomized controlled trial involving Sahrawi women living with type 2 diabetes showed that after 3 months of taking Moringa leaf powder, their glycemic control measurably improved. Another 2025 randomized controlled trial on patients with metabolic syndrome found that just 1,000 milligrams of Moringa taken twice daily for 8 weeks reduced HbA1c by 0.4% and significantly lowered insulin levels. Studies have shown that roughly 20 grams of leaf powder taken daily for 2 or more weeks improved post-meal blood sugar in both pre-diabetic and diabetic patients. In laboratory studies, Moringa extracts induce apoptosis, programmed cell death, in breast cancer cells, prostate cancer cells, and pancreatic cancer cells, working through pathways involving BCL2 and Bax protein modulation and caspase activation. And here is the part that should make you pause. In those same studies, the compounds left healthy cells largely untouched while specifically targeting the cancerous ones. So now we arrive at the question you have been waiting for. If this tree does all of this, if it has been proven across centuries and increasingly confirmed by modern science, why are you only hearing about it now? Why isn't your doctor handing you a Moringa pamphlet? Why isn't this tree on the cover of every health magazine? The answer is not medical. The answer is economic. Here is the first reason. You cannot patent a tree. A pharmaceutical company can synthesize a single molecule, file a patent, and earn billions over the next 2 decades of exclusivity. But a whole plant that has existed for thousands of years, that grows freely in dozens of countries, that any farmer can cultivate in their own backyard, generates exactly 0 licensing revenue. There is no profit in research that benefits everyone equally. The second reason is geographic. Moringa is native to India and cultivated across the global south, in Africa, in Southeast Asia, in Latin America. For decades, Western supplement and pharmaceutical industries simply ignored medicinal crops coming out of these regions. Trade barriers, import restrictions, and a deep historical bias toward European and North American botanicals kept Moringa products out of mainstream Western markets until very recently. The third reason is the most damning. Clinical trial funding follows profit potential. A large-scale randomized controlled trial costs between $50 million and $100 million to run. Patent holders fund this research because patents generate the returns that justify the investment. With no patent on a tree species, no major company has the economic incentive to fund massive trials. So while farmers in Kerala have known for centuries what their grandparents told them about this plant, Western science has been slow to formally prove what was already obvious to anyone willing to look outside the patent system. And the story does not end with medicine. Here is something that almost nobody talks about. If you crush the seeds of a Moringa tree, they release a natural cationic protein. That protein has the remarkable ability to flocculate bacteria and cause sediment to settle out of contaminated water. 8 organizations have been using ground Moringa seeds in regions without access to clean drinking water for years as a low-cost alternative to chemical purifiers like aluminum sulfate. A single handful of seeds can clarify gallons of muddy, polluted water within minutes. Think about that. The same tree that can lower your blood sugar can also turn dirty water into safe water using nothing more than its seed. And it goes further. Every part of this tree has a use. The leaves are the nutritional and medicinal foundation. The long green pods, called drumsticks, are cooked as vegetables across South Asia. The seeds purify water and yield an oil used in cooking and cosmetics. The flowers are edible and woven into traditional dishes. The bark provides fiber for ropes. Livestock feed on the trimmings, extending the agricultural value beyond human consumption. 1 tree, 6 harvestable parts. 0 waste. The global Moringa market has now reached roughly $7 billion, and demand is growing fastest in wellness markets across North America and Europe. Smallholder farmers across Africa are cultivating it as a cash crop. Powders, capsules, oils, and teas now dominate retail shelves. But here is the irony. Despite all this growth, Moringa remains dramatically undermarketed compared to its scientific potential. because the same forces that hit it for decades still shape what gets shouted from the rooftops and what gets whispered. Now, before you run out and plant a moringa tree in your garden or order 10 kilograms of powder, you deserve the honest caveats. Most of the human evidence is still preclinical, conducted on cells and rodents. The human randomized controlled trials are small and limited in scope. The roots and bark contain alkaloids that can become toxic at high doses, so most of the medicinal value lies in the leaves. Pregnant women should avoid root extracts because of documented uterine effects. Moringa can interact with diabetes medications and blood pressure prescriptions, so it is not a casual addition for anyone already on treatment. Always talk to a medical professional before adding it to your regimen. The point is not that moringa is a magic cure. The point is that it has been overlooked for reasons that have nothing to do with science. And then, there is the part that may matter most in the years ahead. Moringa is one of the most drought-resilient food crops on the planet. It survives in arid conditions where conventional agriculture collapses. The tree grows up to 12 feet in a single year under favorable conditions. Mature trees produce harvestable leaves within just 8 months of planting. The water required is a fraction of what staple crops demand. In a world facing climate stress, food insecurity, and shrinking arable land, a tree that feeds people, feeds livestock, purifies water, and grows where almost nothing else can survive is not just nutritious, it is strategically essential. Several African nations have already launched large-scale moringa cultivation programs precisely for this reason. So step back with me for a moment. One tree provides edible leaves, pods, seeds, roots, and flowers. One tree grows in drought conditions where others die. One tree feeds livestock, purifies water, lowers blood sugar, and fights inflammation. One tree contains a pharmaceutical library that would cost billions to replicate synthetically. The question is no longer whether Moringa oleifera deserves the name miracle plant. The Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, the Ayurvedic physicians, the African healers, and a growing wave of modern scientists all agree. The real question is why Western medicine ever stopped paying attention. And the answer, as uncomfortable as it is, lies not in the plant's limitations, but in the economic systems that decide which knowledge gets remembered and which gets forgotten. You can change that in your own small way, simply by paying attention now. Look into whether moringa grows in your climate. Visit a local nursery and ask if they carry it. If they do not, ask why. Read the studies for yourself. Talk to your doctor about whether it could complement your health. And if this tree exists, hiding in plain sight for 2,000 years, ask yourself this: what else is the world growing right now, in some quiet corner of the planet, that the textbooks have forgotten to mention?